Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamu alaikum, dear students. Hope all of you are fine. Today I am going to talk about a new theme which is called personal identity. This has been discussed before in the beginning of the session. You get 1 SCQs and 5 MCQs from this portion in Prof. It's one of the most important part of forensic medicine, that is the legal aspects in every case concerning law. You as forensic examiner have to determine the personal identity of victim and accused, whether living or dead, for the purpose of law. Only then you can proceed for the required medico-legal examination. Sources of study or Book of Naseeb Aman and chapter on identity, Book of Parikh, again identity, and my lecture notes. So the important sub-themes or SCQs discussed today are corpus delicti, methods of identity and their brief description, Hess's rule and its medico-legal importance, and medico-legal importance of teeth. So these are questions or SCQs which have been asked in Prof in the past, and today I will take up one by one briefly. So number 1 is a kind of note or short essay question. Corpus delicti. This means accurate identification, mandatory for establishment of corpus delicti after homicide, to rule out false charge. So it has 2 parts. It's also called body of offense. That means in homicide is an offense, and so if offense has 2 parts, body of offense means the complete offense of homicide. So it has 2 parts. Number 1, positive identity of the body of the victim or dead person, killed person, has to be determined. Positive identity means confirmed identity, 100% confirmed identity of the person should be determined. Number 2 is proof of death by criminal act of accused. So the other part of corpus delicti belongs to the accused. The first part was about victim and the second part is about accused or killer or assailant. It should be confirmed that this victim was killed by some criminal act of accused, such as he was shot down by accused, or a sharp weapon was used, like knife or something, or he was strangulated by accused. So this evidence has to be provided. Then only then it will become body of offense. Now corpus delicti deals with identification of the accused, that of the victim, that this body it belongs to victim, that is corpus delicti, and it should be beyond doubt. Now, after this is determined, then trial of murder or homicide can take place on circumstantial evidence in the absence of recovery of dead body. So even if dead body is not found, then even then if corpus delicti is determined, proved, then trial of murder can take place. So that was about corpus delicti. Next subtopic or subtheme or question is, which you may get in exam, what are methods of identity, and describe anyone or describe by name, like third party method, subjective method and objective method. So there are three methods of identity, broadly speaking, and this topic you will find in Nasib Aman in the beginning of the chapter on identity, and you won't find in Parik. So there are three methods he has discussed: third party method, subjective method and objective method. So first of all, there is third party method. As its name suggests, there are three parties or three people or three individuals in an examination, medical legal examination, in which identity has to be determined. Number one is the person who is examining, that is examiner. Number two, examinee, the person to be examined for determination of identity. It may be a victim, it may be accused, it may be a living, or it may be dead. And number third is the someone who has brought that person or dead body for that examination, because that person was either dead, so someone has to bring him, or he was so seriously injured or intoxicated or out of his mind or unconscious that someone from family or friends is there to bring him for examination and determination of identity. So that person is third party. So that is why this method is called third party method, because the identity mainly depends on that relative or friend or someone who has bring that person for examination, victim, and the victim has maybe no documentation or not able to tell about himself or herself. So this other person who has brought him is the third party, and so personal identity of that victim is verified by this person, the third party person. So his name, the name, that means the third party person, his name, his NIC number and his relationship with the victim is entered, has to be entered by the examiner. So it has to be recorded that who brought him. This is most common method. In majority of the cases, third party method is used and is acceptable to law. Now, next method is subjective method. So, this is may be used in case of unknown, decomposed, and mutilated dead bodies where third party is not present. So that means a person was found dead by police somewhere outside city, and that some time has passed and his body is decomposed. It's not easy to recognize, there is no document with him, or the body is mutilated, or the body is even recognizable but it is unknown, totally unknown to police. So, and there is no one to tell, there is no third party to claim. So, what will police do? They will bring that body for dead body for autopsy, and there examiner will like or is bound to determine identity of that person, dead body. So how he can determine? What he can do? He will analyze morphological data and basic information about that dead body by just looking at him, his clothes, his belongings, his facial features, his height, weight, age, sex. So these type of characters will help him to determine partial identity of that person. It will not be complete 100%. So what are those physical characters? They may be facial features. That means what shape the face is. Is it round, broad, small, big? What is color of eyes? What is color of his skin? What is height of that person? What is weight of that person? Is there any scar mark, or is there any mole on the face or some prominent place on the body? So these features or such like features will help to determine partial identity, like the person is male or female, is he young or old, or somewhat what is he, maybe looks rich or poor. So these facial characters help, such information, physical characters help. Now these are also called parameters, which are primary parameters, then and secondary parameters. Primary parameters are those which are present at birth, and secondary are those which are acquired after birth. So among these parameters, they may be anatomical, physiological, pathological, and genetic. Anatomical are like these facial features and characteristics. Physiological include the voice or gait of the person, how he speaks or walks. Pathological means any sign of disease or something like that, like scar mark, etc. And genetic means what is the blood group and such information which is inherited. Now his belongings are also important, that if there is some thing police found like cap of the person, wristwatch or glasses, so these belongings also somewhat help. If the person is known to someone, he can identify that these things belong to so and so person. Now information is incomplete, and it sometimes it is not very easily available. especially in decomposed and mutilated bodies, but it may be more or helpful in fresh dead bodies. So that is about subjective method. Next method is objective method. Now, objective method is utilization of morphological and belonging data. So that data which was discussed in subjective method, if it is examined by experts in laboratory, those subject specialists, like someone is fingerprint expert, someone is molecular biologist who can determine DNA, and so someone is anthropologist who can analyze the bones, skeleton. So these people, these agencies, investigation agencies, when they are given such identity clue or character, so they can determine the personal identity of that person with quite accuracy. So because they are experts and they have lab facilities like fingerprint bureau, like DNA testing, like these anatomist and radiologist and dental experts who can analyze these clues, and so they can come up with the confirmed personal identity, provided there is some record of that person that should be maintained with police or some agency, then it can be matched with that and confirmed. So what is the theory or principle of this method? That is a character having intimate or close association to a person in body or belonging is sufficient to establish identity. So what does that mean? That means if police finds a hair, bones, teeth, spectacles, pen, cap, etc., and these are brought to the forensic science lab for expert analysis, so they can have enough knowledge and enough this data is enough to establish the identity of that person. So examples in which cases this objective method is done is mostly in dead bodies, like decomposed bodies, fragmentary remains in some crash, air crash or some earthquake, mutilated bodies by animals or by humans, because they lack facial identity. So subjective data is not available. So when there is no subjective data available, only some tissue which is difficult to determine identity by subjective method, then objective method can help. So that was about this question about what are methods of identity and their description. Next question to be asked is the square Hess's rule. I think that has been taught to you in the beginning. So, and it has been asked in our test. This is a formula devised by a scientist, Hess, to find out the intrauterine age of fetus in cases of criminal abortion. Now, what is the importance of age and what is age? This is Now we have not enough time or not this opportunity to discuss the age. Age is, but you know from your previous knowledge, age is a parameter, very important parameter to determine identity. So this question of fetus arises in criminal abortion cases because in criminal abortion the mother is may be found dead and there may be a fetus may be outside uterus lying along mother and most probably it will be dead. So now in the court the question arises whether that fetus was born alive or dead. If it was born dead then it's a different story, but if it was born alive then that fetus is also killed along with mother. So then a charge of iskate hamal and iskate janeen can be applied. But this iskate hamal is up to certain period in pregnancy and iskate janeen is afterwards when organs and limbs have been formed. So it is very important to determine intrauterine age of fetus so as to apply which charge, iskate hamal or iskate janeen. So Hesses gives a formula to determine age, and that is the square root of length of fetus, and that is crown heel length. That means from head to toe in centimeters. This length in centimeter gives approximate age of fetus in months in first 5 months of intrauterine life. After fifth month of intrauterine life, the length of the fetus is in centimeter is divided by 5 and that gives age in months. So there are two applications of this formula. In first 5 months of intrauterine life it is square root of length, and in last 4 months it is length divided by 5. Now what is the medical legal importance of Hesses rule? This is to estimate fetal age in cases of criminal abortion to determine live or stillbirth. This I have told you before. So this question you can find in Nasib Aman as well as in Parik. Next question is Gustafson's criteria. If you recall, this was also discussed. It relates with teeth, general appearance of teeth. Gustafson was a scientist who tried to study the changes in teeth as part of aging. Now these are changes observed after maybe 25 years of life, because up till 25 years the best changes are observed in the morphology of teeth, in the number of teeth, eruption of teeth and calcification of teeth, and whether teeth are temporary or permanent. So all these factors help to determine age quite fairly, but afterwards when teeth are fixed like 32 in number in adults and all are present, then this information is not very helpful except that the person is adult or above 25. But if you want to know further age, like whether what is a middle age or old age or at what stage of age the person is, then this Gustafson assigned values to 6 types of changes in teeth. So he discovered 6 types of changes which can help in determining age of that person, and those are degree of attrition, number 1, number 2, alteration in level of gingival attachment, number 3, amount of secondary dentine present on teeth. Number 5, translucency of the root of the tooth. Number 4 was this. Number 5, root resorption. And number 6, cementum deposit around root. So you have to remember the names of these 6 changes, and if you want you can consult book for further details, but generally the question is asked about names. So that is about Gustafson's criteria of teeth. Then Miles was another scientist who worked on teeth. Also he worked on these changes, and he came out with conclusion that translucency of the root is most reliable criteria of these 6, and it is enough to determine age. So he emphasized on translucency of root to be most important one to determine age. Then Boyd was another scientist. He devised another method from incremental features of animal. That means what he said was that there are striations or lines of animal which are daily being produced being added at the growth of 4 microns per day. So they are growing at this rate. So if they are counted, then their number can be determined since birth. So by applying this formula, the age of the person can be determined. Number 4 scientist after Gustafson, Miles, Boyd, then there is Stack. He studied in infants the changes on teeth related to weight and height of developing teeth. So that is Stack's method. Next question which is asked in exam is, what is medico-legal importance of teeth? Now this question you may get in Parik, and so following are points you can write. First, the headings or points are: number 1, identity; number 2, age; number 3, sex; number 3, race; number 4, occupation and habits; and number 5, social status. So number 1 importance is identity of victim and assailant. So as we have discussed in above methods, Gustafson's criteria and others, and also those early changes in teeth in first 2 decades of life, if you recall, you can apply that information to determine identity. But also if you get a tooth sample of a person, then by comparing with ante-mortem records with dental which may lie with dental surgeon or which may be found with some agency like police, and matching of those characters also determine identity of that person. Even DNA test is very accurate. It can be done to determine the identity. Number 2 is age of the person. So this if you recall this previous discussion, age of the person can be determined from teeth. Number 3 is sex of the person. can also be determined by detection of Y chromosome under microscopy. So this is one way to determine. Another way is isolation of sex-specific bending patterns in DNA of X and Y. So DNA, if you study DNA, then you can find the X and Y chromosomes patterns, and this will help you to determine sex of the person from the teeth. Number 4 is race. So in Mongols, the incisors are shovel shaped, so that is peculiar with Mongols. In American Indians, the incisors are large tooth, that means they are large. And there are some races which have small teeth and some have large teeth. So these are features which help to determine race of the person by teeth. Then occupation and habits. Now certain occupations you will, for example in tailors, you will find that their upper incisors are notched. That means there is a cut in those teeth because they are in habit of keeping needle or some thing in mouth, in teeth. Then those people who consume pans, they have brown stains on their teeth. And those who smoke, they have dark brown stains on their teeth. So these are a few examples of occupation and habit. Last is social status. So since general cleanliness of teeth, dental fillings by expensive materials like gold or other latest materials, and artificial teeth are dentures and their quality, that give idea of social status, because all these treatments are expensive and not affordable by poor people. So these type of procedures are mostly done or adopted by upper class or rich people. So that was all about today's lecture. Thank you so much.